Hi everyone. Today we did get a move lower to some key support here at the trend and then found a bounce from the trend line and back up to that 200, back up to that 565 level. Pretty interesting finish for Max Payne, but let's take a quick look at the charts before we head into the weekend. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So in news today, Trump came out and said there will be flexibility when it comes to reciprocal tariffs. Don't forget, those are supposed to start on April 2nd, which will have a major impact to markets, in my opinion, if they do go through. But today he said there will be some flexibility, so that's a little bit bullish. He also plans to talk to Xi Jinping from China to see what they can work out. He also already gave automakers a 1-month exemption there. So we'll see. We'll see what this plays out to be. Right now, a little bit of flexibility I think is slightly bullish, but there is still a ton of uncertainty when it comes to tariffs. And they're saying April 2nd, like I said, the start date, and we're calling that Liberation Day. Again, very, very interesting, very bearish if it goes through as a true reciprocal tariff for the rest of the world. And I think this is part of why we are seeing weakness in markets. There's just a lot of uncertainty around this potential April 2nd reciprocal tariff day. Moving over to fear and greed, you can see we got another slight step up, 1 point there, still seeing a little bit of grinding price action to the bull side. Strength, not so much. Breadth still showing a little bit of reprieve there on the 200, came down to that 6 area, and now we're seeing a bit of a bounce, so that's good. Put call ratio also pulling back slightly. Volatility getting very, very close there to the SMA. Is it going to touch and bounce from there? That's interesting. Slowly trending up right now. You can see we've seen this before. Eventually it does break. But in the past, we've seen some pretty consistent peaks. And is this going to be another iteration? Definitely interesting to watch. Safe haven demand starting to spike up a little bit. Equities have slowed their fall over the last 20 days, so this metric is starting to normalize a little bit more. And then junk bonds, no movement there. Moving over to the charts, just a quick look. Like I said, came down, touched the trend line, ended up positive on the day, just 19 cents for the S&Ps. A lot of movement, pretty choppy on the session. You can see we came down, tagged this level, overthrew the low back from Tuesday. I was a little bit concerned there for a second, but pretty quickly we got back above the level here, 560, and then pushed right to 565 for the end of the session. In the after hours, the 200 has been resistance, got to that level during the session and paused. But overall for me, this is telling me that buyers are still coming in at these key levels, despite the fact that we just can't seem to break out quite yet. And then looking at the Tasty charts here for the SPY, you can see we're still in bearish conditions. Did not get above that trailing stop at 565.19. Interesting to see that. I thought we would have gotten above it, but we just couldn't close above it during the session. You can see huge volume coming through on that bullish push into the end of the session. Some of that could have been the quad witching, trying to get into a better position for the market makers, but overall, still neutral here over the past couple days. Going bullish here, bearish, bullish, bearish, and still bearish. So when you get this kind of flipping price action that's neutral, we haven't seen a consistent move there yet, and today was no change to that. Moving over to the NASDAQ, similar thesis, but a little bit stronger, up about 1/3% there. You can see really choppy, almost hit 472.50, overthrew the low from the previous 2 days, almost got to the low from the Tuesday, not quite, but it almost did, and then 481.94. So we spent a lot of time in the same trading range we've been in. 477.69 hasn't been a super important level. It's kind of been the midpoint of the range, almost touched the low there, almost touched the high again, and really no movement relative to where we have been. Momentum finally closing bullish there. RSI still relatively neutral. And then looking at that hourly chart, you can see through a wick to that low, didn't quite touch the level and then bounced. Nice strong push out of there. Retracement candle, really strong push there. Consolidation, push into the end of the session, right? So overall, relatively bullish. Couldn't get above the highs from yesterday or the day before, but not terrible. Again, buyers definitely coming in this zone, and it seems pretty heavily defended, at least for now. Moving over to the Tasty charts for the Qs, you can see same thesis really as the SPY charts. Bullish, bearish, bullish, bearish, right? We're still bearish. We're right at that ATR trailing stop, 481.71 right there. Could not close above it, even in those after hours candles. Look how we just came into that zone and stopped almost to the penny. Volume on that last candle was really strong. Bullish candle there. Want to see it push up into the 44.50 zone, potentially for the Monday, I think is in play. That would take you up to these previous highs, just past those a little bit. The ATR bands are slightly bullish, so you can see those kind of swinging to the upside, but again, relatively neutral here, consolidation for sure. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, the Russell did not do nearly as well, down 0.62, momentum still bullish, RSI still bullish, came in, touched the level 201.88, but could not get back above 205.07. So we closed above it on Wednesday, stopped right at it Thursday, and then here today, middle of the range, right? 201 to 205, still here, waiting to see what happens. Momentum, like I said, still slightly bullish. And then looking at the Dow, up 30 cents, closing back above 418.38. Realistically, it looks like 419.87, 420 might be a more important level, might slide that up. But you can see it was respected back here from the Monday to Tuesday last week, but over the last 3 days, we've really chopped on that level. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, again, quickly moving here. Apple up 1.95%, really strong push there. Big volume, momentum swinging to bullish, really like that candle there. Similarly here on Microsoft, 1.14%, so big outperformance from the Mag 7, huge volume coming through, really like to see that. That's a big indicator of some potential bullishness next week. We'll talk about it more on the weekly charts on the weekend video, but I like these closes here for some of these Mag 7 stocks, and specifically Apple and Microsoft looked pretty good. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, you can see staples down 3 cents and basically no movement there, but look at discretionaries, really nice pop, 1/3%, back above 197.14. Again, looks like solid consolidation. It's taken a while to culminate here, but I think this is still going to go. We're not going any lower. Definitely a consolidation. I'm expecting that counter trend rally here into next week. Moving over to Breadth, very concerning here on Breadth. We saw a big weakening on Breadth, even with markets holding up fairly well during the session. So you can see 20-day Breadth down 18% here on the Friday. Looks like a top here. If this does not hold a higher low, that could be very concerning early next week. So a little bit of mixed signals. Makes sense with the consolidation that we've seen, but this dip here, that's concerning, right? So you got 50-day down even 10% today, testing that 32.22 level. So again, huge percentage of stocks well below their 20 and 50-day averages. You can see that 50% mark on both of these way above. So you have the majority of stocks well below their 20 and 50-day averages. Moving over to the dollar continues to grind higher, breaking out of this consolidation base. You had a low, slightly lower low here, but then you pushed right back into the middle of the range, closed above the trend line here, looking to push to that 200 at 104.9. Really nice here, continuing to go momentum bullish. This dollar looks like we're going to get a pretty consistent move, I would say at least to that 105.5 area, but it could stall out a little early. I think we'll probably get there though. Moving over to bonds. Bonds actually pulled back a little bit after the pretty nice candle that we had on FOMC. So J&K down just 0.1 or 10 cents, still in the very middle of this range between kind of 97.10 and this 94.18 area. You can see we're pretty much middle there, no movement. And then looking at TLT, this is concerning at this point. So you got a touch at that 144, pulled back, lower high touch, now we've pulled back. So might want to be patient here on TLT. This could probably go a little bit lower, probably down to 89, 16 at least, maybe the 55 EMA, 88, 90, touch this zone, and then we'll see what happens from there. Still have to consider this could be a high, lower high structure, and if you do see that, maybe we end up getting a lower low. That would be interesting. I don't think that that's going to happen, but anything's possible, so you have to keep all probabilities and potentials in your brain here. So short term, I think we'll see a slight retracement. I don't think we're going to retest these lows, at least in my opinion. And then moving over to the VIX continues to fall, broke through these levels, retested some trends and continued lower. I think we're probably going to go at least to that 17.5 area. This makes sense for me. If it cuts through there, then we're going to 14.7. If we do touch that 14.7 area, that's probably going to be a zone where we find a bounce. We found bounces there for many weeks at this point. That would be a key zone. If we touch it, I think we're probably going to bounce higher. Moving over to my accounts, I did manage to make a little bit of money on the day. Not a whole lot, but a little, about 150, I think. Back into the green for the year, so outperforming the markets. Still should have been way up. My Monday was terrible. Super frustrating for the Monday, and I really worked hard to recover, but couldn't make it all up, which is super bummer, especially with stocks being very slightly bullish on the week, I believe. So called it consolidation to bullish. That's what we ended up getting for the week, and I didn't trade it super well on Monday. Monday. The rest of the week was okay, making money the rest of the week, but had to play catch up. Couldn't quite get it done. Overall, again, like I said, slightly bullish on the day and still positive on the day. So that's what we're looking for. And then for positions, 476, 477 puts for a little bit more than $2 credit there. Like I said, I think we're probably bullish going into the Monday, Tuesday, unless we get some kind of movement on breadth, which crushes markets. That's interesting. Underneath the hood is not great, but markets continue to find support, and I do expect to continue to find support on the Monday and really for the rest of the month. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the tariff war that's going on. How much flexibility will there be, or are markets going to tank dramatically on the April 1st and 2nd time frame? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.